Alright, we're gonna play a game. You need to tell me which of these feats are superior. Hey, I'm someone new. You're not gonna know about me. I go by Zalias. I've been in the Versus community for a good while, been from forum to forum, and I feel the Versus community needs some help. When it comes to attack potency and destructive capacity, I've seen a lot of people either misunderstand or just not even know exactly what it entails, the differences, and really how to apply them to feats. So at this point, attack potency, destructive capacity, I don't want to be saying that like the entire video, so I'm gonna refer to them as AP and DC from here on out. Let me define the terms. So basically, DC would simply be the capacity of a character to cause destruction based on a single attack. A highlight here is that AoE is a multiplier in how much DC an attack has, given that mass is a multiplier of force. AP, on the other hand, would be the DC that an attack is equivalent to and depends entirely on the output of a single attack with no regard to the AoE of it. So this is really important. So you have to really understand that AoE is going to be playing a key role here. But I'll clear up the differences with a couple examples. So when we take a sword that cleaves like a large piece of cloth in half and a bullet is leaving but like a tiny little hole in an equally large piece of cloth, we can see that the sword swing has a lot more DC. This is due to a couple things, but mostly it comes down to the AoE of the swing versus the bullet. The other thing would be durability. So I'll be bringing up durability here. Durability is the ability to withstand wear, pressure, or the damage, and plays the key role in why AP is what actually matters, even though everybody be bringing up DC as if it's what's actually important. So, little recap, we have AP, DC, AoE, and we have durability. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Put on some chainmail and see the difference in DC for the sword and the bullet now. The bullet does far more damage, bypassing the durability entirely of the chainmail. But why? It's because it's more potent. So something that could have more DC at first, durability can completely change that. Should be obvious, but it seems it's not. So let me get a little more specific with potency here. I'd say the potency of anything is shown such that the force is concentrated. The more you concentrate force, the more potent it is. It's exactly the reason why a bullet punches through far more than a sword swing. AoE has nothing to do with it though. The more concentrated the force is, the more potent it is. This is literally how we find the potency of things. Like, it doesn't even have to be physical. Which vial of poison is the most potent? You find the poison with the highest concentration to find your answer. Like, a wildfire would destroy much more than a vase of lava. Far more DC in a wildfire to, just a vase full of lava. But if we're to try to find which one is more potent, especially if we're talking about heat here, then the lava's heat is far more potent because that heat is far more concentrated. That fire just can't match. If you compare, for example, get more into like mountain feats, because a lot of anime and manga involves like destroying a mountain. If you compare blowing up a mountain between two attacks, one attack has the AoE of a mountain, and the other attack has the AoE of like a human-sized fist. The DC is actually the same. They're both destroying a mountain. So same DC. So would you say that they have equal strength? Is it like the same feat basically? No, not even close. So the DC might be equal. The AP, however, is astronomically different. In fact, like, the potency of the human fist attack would literally be millions of times more powerful. Again, if we remember that mass is a multiplier of force, and yet these two attacks apply the same force, it should be obvious. If you're ready for some true statements, destroying a mountain with the AoE of a mountain-sized attack, that's not impressive. It's not impressive at all. Destroying a moon with an attack that's literally the size of a moon, that's not impressive. I mean, this goes on. Like, this is because DC doesn't tell us but the bare minimum of how potent something is. And durability only cares about potency. It doesn't care about how much you destroy. Destroying a mountain using mountain-sized AoE only tells us the attack is at least rock level in potency, because the AoE of the attack would destroy it simply based on that little amount of potency needed, assuming that the AoE, engulfs the entirety of what it's destroying. Take that AoE, destroys rock, apply that size of that to rock that size, obviously it destroys it. But that's not impressive. Hopefully this is getting it all driven home, it's getting to be understood just a little bit, but like, all this DC that everybody hypes up, you have a fight in an infinite, indestructible room, and all that DC is meaningless. Now you have to just use your AP to destroy the other person. This DC crap really needs to stop. Now, I've heard many people say that AP doesn't have to destroy as much as another attack to be at the more destructive attack's level. So some people get just, like, that's the baseline. But this is the very beginning of the differences of the words, however. Stopping there is honestly a failure to understand the difference. So while AoE, which generally makes up the destructive capacity of attacks, usually lends to the attack potency being weaker, not equal in power. I'll recap that a little more, but let me repeat that. So while AoE, which generally makes up the destructive capacity of attacks, it actually lends to the attack potency to be weaker when you evaluate a feat. So again, I'll cover that a bit more. But for now, the main problem is some people can, actually gather that, understand it. But the bigger problem is that it's more so them not understanding how AoE factors into the surface area of the matter being hit. So now I'm bringing in surface area. Now going back to the mountain-sized AoE attack hitting a mountain. If you had a person on that mountain at the same time as that attack, the AoE of a mountain destroying something the size of a mountain being destroyed, you go to that and you have a person on that mountain. What fraction of that attack's force or potency do you think they'd actually be hit with? Because we're talking like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the force and potency. So in essence, you take that mountain level DC attack against a person with mountain level durability, and they're not even hurt. In fact, they could have half the durability of a mountain and be fine. This is why you take feats that are generally equal, but the AoE is so much larger, it makes the feat weaker. That's what I was saying before. The person who would have half a mountain's worth of durability could be on the mountain getting destroyed by the mountain buster attack and not even have a scratch on them. Because the surface area, that is the size of a human instead of a mountain, would be fractions upon fractions upon fractions of the force that they would actually be taking. So, to recap here in full, when we're factoring in the attack potency, which is what actually matters against durability, not DC, we need to look at the AoE of the attack versus the surface area of the matter destroyed. We also need to know the type of matter destroyed and how it's destroyed. So, you got like fragmentation, pulverization, vaporization, etc. And lastly, understand mass is a multiplier of force. That mass should be obvious, but if your AoE, which involves mass, is destroying just as much as someone else's attack, but with like millions of times less mass, obviously this should be like, you know, bells going off. I'm gonna finish this with just some good examples of different feats. I've been watching some like Sir Splash, Chuck, and Seth and things, and they scaled the series equally so. It's no problem there, but they definitely hype and highball everything, but that's semi besides the point. I can, you know, address that in a future video. But the big thing I feel is left out is AP. AP just isn't being factored in. It's this feat shows this much destroyed. Oh wow, you know, this person's much more powerful than this other person. I just can't be doing that. So this is a different view that I feel hasn't really been shown too much. And well, that's why I'm here. So let's start with one that everybody knows, Naruto. I consider Naruto to be a high DC, low AP verse in general. Their AP is fine. It's just that their AP shown is just so much beneath their DC shown. Like, it's not even close. Let's go over some of their feats. I know everybody knows Toneri destroying the moon. Well, not destroying. He splits it in half. So we see here that he's cutting through the entire moon. Now, is this impressive? Is this an impressive feat? Yeah, it's impressive. For DC, it's an impressive destructive move, destroying a large amount of matter. AP, on the other hand, it's actually not impressive. It's not an impressive attack potency force, because the AoE required for the destruction level, required for the length of his attack to be longer than literally what he's destroying in the first place. If you have his attack be only potent enough to easily destroy moon rock, well, there you go. Via the length of the attack, it's going to destroy what it did, which is cutting through the moon. Now, I'm not saying this doesn't mean that his actual attack potency with this feat is only moon rock level. The answer is we don't know. We don't know what it is. We would have to have him scale off of other attacks in the exact same way, viewing off of the attack potency that they show. So, impressive DC, not impressive AP. A good moon level AP feat, which would come to no surprise, would be this here, Piccolo's Moonbeam feat. Now, this attack relies on almost zero AoE, especially comparatively. That's the point here, and carries enough force to obliterate the entire object with its energy. Something to note, I mean, it should be obvious again, as energy dissipates as it travels through matter, kinetic energy for example, for this attack to destroy the moon with so little AoE, it's showing a guaranteed minimum of moon level attack potency, or AP. This is what we should want. Now, to be clear, I understand the destruction is different, so it even if you just go, oh, DC is exactly what we look for, so of course Piccolo's attack is more. No. If Piccolo's attack was to just split the moon in half, somehow with just, you know, the AoE of his attack being like a blast, or rather, the better way to see this is, if Toneri was to obliterate the moon in exactly the same way that Piccolo did, but required for his beam to somehow be like a net that covers the entirety of the moon, Piccolo's feat is insanely still superior if Toneri could still, you know, increase the AoE of his attack to destroy the entirety of the moon. Piccolo's feat is what we're looking for. Let's go on to some another feat, and then I'll stop picking on Naruto a little bit. But they mostly rely on a lot of high DC, low AP shown feats. So this next feat requires us to ask ourselves about how big Susanoo is. I've seen different takes on it. This here, you can see that it's maybe half as, at most, they change it from, you know, size. They change the sizes from panel to panel, but a lot of people give it around 300 feet. Now, here's the thing. Mountains are usually at a minimum of around 2,000 feet. I've also seen, like, 1,000 feet, which was abandoned as, like, a measurement for what it is. By 2,000 feet, we're talking, like, around their surrounding area or above sea level. But it's certainly not slightly double Susanoo at like 600 plus feet. Regardless, and the only reason why this matters, here's the feats. So like, here we see the power of two Biju bombs colliding. You can see the mountains in the back, that's why I bring it up. It's however you want to take it. But here you see the power of two Biju bombs colliding. And so then we'll go on to another feat. Here we got like the 10 tails just annihilating like a swath of land. You can see the mountains again. Enormous DC feat. And then lastly, we have this feat here of all the different multi-mountain size, though the size of the mountains, again, once again, they matter. Definitely multiple of those mountains shown would fit within these meteors being destroyed by an even bigger explosion per mountain. Here's the problem. Each and every attack surely has enormous DC, but that's only due to the AoE of each and every one of these feats. They require this AoE to destroy so much, and the AP shown falls very short and is just not comparable. What this means is that the durability needed to tank these attacks is nowhere close to the DC of these attacks, making like any destructive attack that still injure, say, Naruto himself or anyone, that they are relying on their potency shown. Rather, they rely on their potency that they show they need far less potency to injure him than people like to pretend. Like, the potency of these attacks just being the fact that they aren't actually nearly to the level of the DC, and this applies to every, pretty much like every other verse. It's not just Naruto here, but don't think it's like, oh man, Ten Tails just blew up like a country with that attack, or whatever you want to scale it to. If Naruto's way more durable than that attack, so obviously, he's country level, durability. Durability does not care about your DC. It cares about the potency. This is the main point here. And alright, so that's it for Naruto. So here we can go on to Bleach. Bleach has good AP feats. They also have high DC feats. So here this feat is another impressive AoE and DC feat. And I'll save unbacked statements for another video, but for now, I'll just take Las Noches at what I've seen often assumed at like a 300 miles, lowballing it. So the blast is like small country level then, yeah? And here we see Ichigo stopping it with one hand. So Ichigo is casually above small country level durability in this feat right here, right? Nope, hell nah. It's not even close. This isn't showing him take on a small country level of AP. It's a feat of size showing DC alone. Y'all getting tired of me saying the same thing? Because I'm getting tired of all these people not understanding this. It should be super easy. Hopefully you guys are getting it. Alright, there's even more to how strong AP is based on how it destroys things. So I'm retouching something I already touched on before. Pulverization, fragmentation, and such. That's besides what the durability of the toughness is, such as a sword hitting cloth versus chainmail. Like, how durable is Las Noches? Could the attack destroy anywhere near as much without so much AoE? Or is it only able to destroy so much based on its AoE? And, well, to what level would it destroy Las Noches? Would it vaporize it? Pulverize it? We have no idea. In truth, Ichigo stopped. This feat shows that Ichigo stopped a potential small country DC attack that tells us nothing on the level of AP it had, giving us basically a 0 durability feat. Unless we scale it. We can simply scale it to the attacks we have seen previous and derive AP from them, but we need to be, we gotta be straight here. We would have to derive the AP scaling from other feats, scaling their AP the same way. You don't get to just go, okay, alright, maybe the AP isn't as great as, the DC here in this feat, so we'll just scale it compared to the next highest DC feat. No, the point isn't the DC. You would have to be able to use this for every feat. Across Naruto, across Bleach, across One Piece, across, any of these. This goes to say for anything, comics. Superman, doesn't matter. That's how we should be scaling as a community. Now, alright, let's look at a feat that actually shows great potency. So here, give you some scaling here. This requires about a few pictures so you can get an idea. You can see here that each of the Okumen trees, those are the, you can see like a couple arrows, you got one pointing to the mountain, the one that's like a giant stem on a disc, those are plants. Those are Okumen trees, and they range from taller in the height of humans, even the smallest if you move if you were to move them side by side, to massively larger than any mountains we've seen, and not just in height. Now, here you'll see this one. This gives a better perspective on the sheer ridiculous size of everything. Those Okumen trees there are super tiny compared to Beheaded Hill. You'd easily be able to fit in about 200 plus of them inside of Beheaded Hill. So, should be able to understand here, Beheaded Hill is massive. We're talking, roughly about 1,000 mountains, 1,000 of those first feats, you know, those tiny little things, fitting within the size of Beheaded Hill. Now, the main point here is Sensui is destroying that amount of mass with the AoE of his fist. This is crazy. This is what we should want for, like, insane AP feats. Like, he did it with nothing but the AoE of a human hand. Except, no, actually, he did it with literally the air pressure of his fist. This is massive. Like, the AP needed for the air pressure from distance, mind you, to travel to something the mass of 1,000 mountains and proceed to pulverize it all throughout, is much higher than the Bleach, Naruto, not the DBZ. But you get the idea. Like, much higher than their feats. And I'm not saying this is the strongest any of these series are, of course. Like, the purpose here isn't... It's simply to identify what's actually impressive in a feat. Sensui's basic, full contact punches have shown to have enough AP to destroy the mass of around 1 million mountains, assuming air pressure from a good distance would leave the kinetic force acting on the massive mountain rock to be at least 1,000 times weaker, to give an idea. So that's assuming, like, from a distance, the kinetic force of the air pressure having to travel and weaken is about 1,000 times weaker than his full power direct punch. We're talking about like 1 million mountains attack potency wise, not DC, whereas many of these other feats require them to be simply the DC. These are the types of feats that we should be wanting as a versus community. Now, this pretty much wraps it up. Hopefully, you guys are getting an idea of the difference and the importance of factoring in everything here. So, yeah, like, I'll show these feats again, and you decide which of these feats are more impressive. It's not that an AoE, a bigger AoE attack, can't be the actual attack that's more impressive with attack potency. But it should hopefully be more clear now, or now the less destructive feats, maybe they have you second guessing just how close these feats are. Keep going through these feats here, showing you on the screen, get an idea. And yeah, so with future videos, what I'm wanting to do, I'll cover potency involving things like heat and energy, things that aren't just physical attacks, of course. Covered it just a little bit, but you know, I can definitely cover more. I would also be wanting to do videos over several other things. Specifically, I want to really touch on things like scaling and how to do it properly, avoid like ridiculous calc stacking and still be consistent. You know, cover how not every series makes their energy type equal to like physical or stats or anything, especially so in like a linear or multiplicative sense. I have good examples for that. I'd like to talk on, or rather I will be making future videos on hacks and fallacies, like no limit fallacies and such, and the effectiveness of such hacks in different series. And other like pre-made assumptions such as energy used in an attack equals the speed of that energy, such as a lightning attack being lightning speed. And I will especially be hitting on unbacked claims. I'll get to that in that video. And yeah, for now, that's it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and look forward to more to come. That's it. I'm Zalius, and I'm out.